right, guys. I figured I'd start this live stream just to talk a little bit about my perception of the world as I know it. And I'm 39 years old. I have some stuff. I'm not wealthy by any means, but I do feel somewhat secure in preserving my being on this planet. And I think that if we sum life up, or our efforts up, I think we'll find that everything we do, in some sense, is a means to preserve ourselves into the future. Basically, let's just say we earn some money through a job. Why do we go to work? To get money. Why do we need money? To buy things we need to preserve our life. We started feeling this way whenever things we needed to preserve our life were taken away from us, which usually happens as you grow older. Your parents start to say, "Oh, you're old enough to work. You can buy some school clothes. Oh, you're old enough to work. You want something that's frivolous like candy, or you want a car to drive yourself. I've been giving you a ride to school, or you're able to ride the school bus. You need to work and earn a car." So basically, our lives are revolving around the fact of trying to survive, and we gear our whole lives towards survival. An old saying is that, and I'm pretty sure it was in the movie Fight Club, is that eventually the things you own you, meaning that if you buy a big house, well, a big house requires a lot of upkeep, may require extra helpers. Extra helpers require extra money. So those things actually make you have to work even harder. So it's this vicious cycle of having to constantly have extra stored energy, meaning money. So that's essentially what we're working for, is to store our resources and energy. You plant seeds in the soil, they grow into food, which is security for yourself in the future, so that you don't have to worry about eventually maybe being hungry or something. So our whole lives are revolved around a preservation of ourselves. That goes so much deeper. There's preservation beyond us, by spreading our genes. There's preservation of our memory, like me making this video or me uploading photographs of something that I thought was unique, like on my Instagram channel. Or there's collecting relics and assets and putting them in the places that have a long track record. Like if somebody had a really nice historic collection of artifacts, they may donate those to like the Smithsonian or your local museum or whatever, wherever they're willing to receive them, in a sense to preserve them. So oddly, what people don't think about a lot of times is that when we pass on into the next life, that a lot of the things that you personally have held valuable might actually not be of the same value to the next person. And I'm a little older, so I've been through a few people passing on in my life, and because I saw a viewer pop on that just popped off, it goes to show you how long our attention spans are nowadays. That when somebody you love passes on, there's going to be these little mementos or relics or items that you're going to want to keep. But when you pass on, those relics that you've managed to hold on to doesn't mean that the person below you or after you will hold on to those items. They may not have the same value that you put on those items. So it's really made me think differently about a lot of things. Like, what do I really need to be happy? And I've kind of come to the realization that what I really want in life is to just have the freedom to choose. I don't want to be bound by the things I own. I want to be able to go out and experience things, because ultimately that's something that can't be taken away from you, is your experiences. So they give you plenty of things to do and preoccupy your mind no matter what environment you're in. So experience, in my opinion, is probably the most valuable thing that you can hold on to in your life. Everything else, while it might seem super important at the time, as you old age or as your life situation changes, you'll find that those things may not hold the same value. What I'm trying to do with my life is to invest in things that have a long track record of appreciating value. And usually those are things that are scarce or becoming more scarce. Like, for instance, collectible cards. If you know about Pokemon, for instance, then some of those cards that were around when we were kids, I grew up in the era where Charizard was um, like a part of the culture of my group of my age. In sixth grade, when we actually started to acquire things, a holographic Charizard actually was something that we placed value on. And then I got into like eighth grade, and I didn't care about Pokemon anymore. I didn't have any Pokemon after that. They were just gone. I kept my Marvel cards from a young age on, and those are the ones I truly do value. But my point is that just because you value something at that time doesn't mean you're going to continue to value that as you get older. And then we got way older and we all got more money. And when we got more money, we started to want to reacquire things that we thought had value at a younger age, like those old Pokemon cards. And a lot of people wanted to do it. A few sparks had gone like wildfire, and people started wanting to buy them. And like Jake Paul, for instance, or Logan Paul, I'm sorry, it kind of really drive that demand for Pokemon cards. So the price of Pokemon cards skyrocketed because they were scarce now. They're not making any more of the original Pokemon cards. So now a lot of people who have great wealth or more wealth than when they were young are willing to pay a lot more for those things that in their childhood were valuable, but now they're even more scarce and they're even more valuable. So people are storing their money, which essentially is your time when you work for your money with time, into old collectibles like Pokemon cards. And there's other ways to store your money. I've been using gold to store some of my money. I was fortunate to get into gold before this last big spike, about 50% increase in the cost of gold in the last 6 months or so. I actually bought it before that big peak. Silver is now going up like crazy. Those were all great investments. And I'll talk to you about how I was able to acquire those things when every year before the last time I started acquiring, I had never been able to hold on to or acquire those assets. Basically, I've changed my thinking about how I look at money. I looked at things that I thought had money or value, and in fact, they were, hey, how y'all doing? Um, the things that I thought had money back then don't have money like that now for me. Like actual money, it's not really money anymore. It's to me an appreciating asset. So really, all money is anymore is a medium of exchange, meaning that currency is really just a way to quickly take your time and put it in something that can be exchanged into something you need or something you want to keep. So when you have more money than you need, you want to take that money and invest it into things that will hold their value over time. So that's where the Pokemon cards came in. That's where gold comes in. But now with digital assets, that is seems to be the future. I know a lot of people talk about it now, but I know a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people throughout the day. I talk to my coworkers. I talk to just people I'm selling work to. I talk to random people all the time. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and it's basically the same people saying the same thing, that crypto is a great investment. And then I talk to normal people, and they don't know anything about crypto. And it's like, well, what does that mean? That means that for right now, the market sentiment of crypto is pretty low, meaning that people don't really understand crypto right now, meaning that they don't see the value in crypto, meaning that this time period now for crypto is like that time period when I was a kid and I was looking at Pokemon cards, and I saw them, and they were valuable and they were cool, but they weren't of the value that could change your life yet. So that's where I feel like we are today with crypto and digital asset investments. It's like those childhood memories of when we were buying Pokemon cards, knowing they were cool, unique, valuable, rare, and scarce, and yet not willing to hold on to them through the ups and downs of their value, and then watching as new sets were released and new Pokemon cards, and then they just fell off for me. Nobody was talking about it when I went into high school. It was over. It was girls and football. Didn't know that age demographic that I was when I got into those kind of things was still into it, even when I was not into it anymore, and that really fueled the demand, and that Pokemon had exceeded what I thought was one of the biggest franchises. Marvel Comics, especially with like the Avengers, and as all that stuff rose up, I didn't realize that Pokemon actually worldwide was far exceeding Marvel, and when I found out, I was like blown away. But I do still think that even though we watched the Pokemon cards go up like this and get to a crazy valuation, and now nobody's selling them, the real money's got them. There ain't no more Pokemon cards to get, and the few that I did see online, the price on those are far greater than the price they were talking about of Pokemon cards whenever they were crazy. $100,000 Charizard is what Logan Paul paid for one Charizard card. And now when I look on eBay, one Charizard card, the only one I saw available is 250,000, and that's the only one that's available on the public market right now. I was fortunate enough to be able to preserve a old Pokemon card, a 2002 original base set Charizard that I was able to get a pretty good deal on a lot of cards. I spent $400 and I bought a lot of cards. And let me show you what it turned out. I can't get it. It turned out to be a PSA 10. And that card now, I've seen it sold recently for over $1,500. So quadrupled my money by taking a gamble. And then I actually now looking, the only one that's even available to purchase is now $3,000. So from a $400 investment to now having something that is only available to purchase again. So if I sold it, I know it sold recently for $1,500. If I want to get it back, it's going to cost me $3,000. So does that mean that the price is $3,000? Well, I think so, because I'm the only one that I know other than the one person that's selling it. So if I sell it $1,500, then the price is $1,500. But if I want to get it back, the price is now $3,000 if that's the only one available. So while they're not selling, and that's the same with crypto, is that like right now, people say the price of Bitcoin is, let's say what it really is, about $117,000 a coin. If nobody sells Bitcoin, then what happens is it goes for the lowest price that somebody's willing to sell it for, which is going to be like 118,000. Well, eventually people just don't want to sell it because they start to realize that the Bitcoin of today is the Pokemon of my yesterday. And what happens is people don't sell it until it changes their whole life. Meaning that if I just spent all my money on Bitcoin at $117,000 per coin, but my money's $5,000 or something, then I'm not going to sell it at 118 because it didn't change my life. I'm not going to sell it at 150 because a 30% gain on 5,000 is only, a $1,500, $1,600, $1,700, not enough to change my life. But if Bitcoin goes from 117,000 to over $1 million, well, that's 10x. So that's about 8x my money. So my $5,000 now turns into $40,000, and that will change my life. And $40,000, because it changes my life, that's where the level of Bitcoin stays, because it changes a lot of people's life. And those are those milestones where Bitcoin will get hung up on for a while. It's like that changed a lot of people's lives, so people start selling. And sorry, let me take a sip of this water. Good spring water there. But people say that I have the most calming voice, and I don't know why they say that, but I heard a funny story, and I wanted to share it with y'all. It was a buddy of mine, and he was saying that his friend had a car that broke down, and he's like, "Hey, will you help me tow my car? Will you come with me so I can tow my car? And I'll give you like $20 for helping me out." And he didn't realize what he was getting into. So he goes there where the car's broke down with his buddy. He's like, "I just need you to steer it for me." And so they tie a rope on. He's like, "Okay, this is kind of weird." They tie the rope on and they take off down the road. And he's like, "You may not have power steering, whatever, that's fine." So they go down the road, and then instead of like tightening the rope, they like take off, and it like does like a snatch pull thing and pulls the car, jerks it. So they's like, "Oh, let me slow down," and there's no power brakes, and he can't like stop the vehicle. So he's going down the road, and the guy he like takes off because it broke down the side of like a main road. So he like takes off, and the guy has no power steering, no brakes, and he's hauling ass down the road, and they've got to go like 3 miles, and it's a pretty erratic, like it's not like a controlled, like when you call a record, they pick it up, it's all secure. This thing is bouncing on the rope down the road, and no power steering, no brakes. And I heard that story, and I just couldn't help but laugh because like that's what I did growing up to save a dollar. It's those experiences that you have to go through sometimes in order to make a difference in the bottom line enough to where you have something extra to work with. If you're just scraping by right now, you're never going to get out of that rat race unless you change something. So for me, I had a lot of bad habits. I was a vapor. I was a dipper, smoked cigarettes, smoked Black and Miles, and I vaped. And it wasn't never all of them at once. It was maybe dipping and smoking sometimes, but I was heavy on any of them that I was on. I spent about $40 a week on buying a combo of 2 vapes, and that was a lot of money. Well, I started learning about silver. This is going to be weird for you at first until you hear the whole story, but I started learning a lot about silver, about how it can moonshot, and it could become one of the most valuable assets due to not only scarcity, being that it's there's only 8 ounces of silver to every 1 ounce of gold. But the demand for silver is like 100 times greater than the demand for gold. The recycling for silver is little to non-existent. Like solar panels has created a huge demand for silver, and it's very hard to extract the silver out of solar panels. So you're not really able to recycle it very well. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to get it back out, and the value of silver isn't there yet where it's even worth the effort. So they're not recycling. It's going to these like waste landfills and stuff where it's just getting wasted, and so that's gonna lead to a diminished demand. Whereas gold, never heard of anybody throwing gold away. There might have been some gold in old electronics that got lost and disposed of, but I mean, if you watch anybody who refines old electronics, they'll talk about how there's more gold in old electronics, and they scrape all the old electronics, and they do extract the gold out of those old electronics. And in third world countries where there's electronic waste and stuff like that, they actually do dig through the waste and pull out all of those circuit boards and wires and copper and those precious minerals. But with silver, those solar panels is so hard and inefficient to get the silver out that they don't do it. But so the demand is greater, and the supply is going down because it's increasing at a decreasing rate. They're using more than they're producing, I heard. And there's a lot of silver that's getting used in a lot of different things. Intercontinental ballistic missiles use silver, like 500 ounces per missile. That's a lot of silver, It's enough to change my life. But my point is that I wanted to acquire some because I thought that it was one of those things like those Pokemon of my childhood, that opportunity that I lost. It's all about those opportunities that you lost. And I thought silver may be the one. So my way to get silver was to give something up or sacrifice something from my past in order to acquire something in the present for my future. That's a little complex, I understand. But I gave up. If anybody wants to know how to quit fucking tobacco or nicotine, it's really easy. You just fucking quit. That sounds ridiculous to say, but the way I justified it was like a couple buddies at work talked about how bad it was that they had quit, and I was like, good for y'all. I'd quit a couple times, and never long term like it is now. But I said, good for y'all. And then my wife sent me a video about like what I'm talking to you, like about how easy it is to just quit, tobacco. And I was so skeptical. I was like, yeah, bullshit. I've been trying to quit for 20 years. And essentially I said, okay, I want silver so bad. So I'm spending $40 a week on tobacco or vapes. I'll take that $40 every week that I don't buy vapes. I'll take it and I'll invest it into silver. And I didn't buy. My thing was I'll just quit if it gets bad. If I have cravings, I'll go back to vaping. What I got to lose here. And I waited for the withdrawals. Like I was like, oh, it's gonna be bad. I'm gonna get a headache. I'm gonna be fidgeting and all that. And it never came. The hardest part, let me tell you, this is the truth. The hardest part, and I'm only speaking about tobacco because that's the only thing I had to quit. The hardest part about quitting wasn't the withdrawals because there were none. It was the triggers. The fact that everything I did triggered me to want to vape. So I had to beat those triggers one at a time. So once I figured out there was no withdrawals, I just had to beat the triggers because everything became a trigger. Like I would turn on the TV, I would have my vape, I'd hit it, I'd open the door, I'd have my vape, I'd eat some food, I'd have my vape, I'd walk outside, I'd have my vape, I'd get in my car, I'd pull my vape out. Everything was a trigger. I would play a game, I'd have my vape. I would, do a little hard work, I'd celebrate and relax and have my vape. It was like everything was a trigger for my vaping. So what happened was I had no withdrawals. There was no twitching. There was no headaches. It was just defeating the triggers. You have a bad day. You get into an argument. Let me hit my vape and relieve my stress. So you've set yourself up to your way of coping. So it's a coping mechanism. So the hardest part with quitting tobacco was to deal with the fact that it was my coping mechanism, and that nowadays I just do iced water. A lot more affordable anyhow. So by figuring out how to actually quit tobacco, I was able to take that $40 and invest it into the thing I had studied to be on the same level of investing in a Pokemon when I was a kid. Since I didn't have that opportunity, I was really not at the age yet. I had the opportunity now to buy silver. So I did. I stopped vaping, and for $40 a week, I started buying silver. $40 a week, I'd buy silver. I was buying I was basically just getting 1 ounce. Right now, an ounce is $40, but I was buying at least 1 ounce for myself. And then if 3 weeks went by and I had a little extra to accomplish, I might buy a little extra, like an extra ounce, or if I got a good deal. I noticed that it changed some of my habits too, because when you buy vapes, a lot of times you go to the store, you don't just buy vapes. You buy a drink, you buy a snack, you're eating junk, you're vaping, you're wasting your money. It's just a bad cycle, right? So I had more money now. I was able to store it into something that wasn't a depreciating asset like cash is. I was buying silver. So I did that for a long time. And this was right after the bull run of last cycle in crypto. So if you're new to crypto, which most people who watch crypto videos aren't new to crypto, they're pretty far invested right now. People who don't know about crypto, like I didn't know about silver or Pokemon at the time, you should look into that. But I started buying it, and then I realized that the opportunity probably wasn't so much into silver, and I was very heavy into silver, that there may be a better opportunity in this crypto stuff. I had really invested and dabbled and got some money, but lost it all because I didn't know really what I was doing. So I knew the opportunity was there if I could just learn enough about it. And I started enjoying learning because those keywords that I didn't understand when I first started learning about it, I started to understand, look them up one by one, like what's market sentiment, what's capitulation, what's, um, a bull flag, descending wedge, like all these different chart patterns. And I started to really understand crypto and started to see that this was truly an opportunity. And because crypto isn't like silver or Pokemon. Pokemon is really a nostalgic thing, and it's just so scarce that the amount of people on Earth that were able to enjoy Pokemon all wanted it, which caused what would be called a squeeze. You had basically what would be like the same thing with GameStop, where you had a short squeeze. That's what happened to Pokemon. It was like there wasn't any supply of it and a lot of demand. So the price went to $100,000 for one PSA 10 card. And that's a short squeeze. That's a classic short squeeze, right? Um, with silver, no, that's really just so the Hunt brothers in I think the 80s, they did cause a short squeeze on the silver market. And then that's when I think the London Metals Exchange or something, they really took over that market. And what they did was they prevented a short squeeze on silver from ever happening again. But basically, the Hunt brothers bought a bunch of longs or options on silver, and they called them filled. They said, "I want them filled." I want to go ahead and get these orders, these options filled on silver. So what does that do when you're in the when you're actually in the forex and all that stuff, and you're buying real goods? If you order a lot of silver or other raw goods like a lot of oil, you don't only have to own the contract, you can own the actual underlying asset too if you want to call that option. And that's what the Hunt brothers did. They did. So the price of silver, if you look, the highest price that silver ever was when the Hunt brothers squeezed the market. Well, that's not what's happening with silver now. What's happening with silver now is actually just supply and demand. Um, it's a little suppressed because if you look at the London Metals Exchange, then you look at like the Shanghai, I think the Shanghai Stock Exchange, you'll see that there is a disparity between the prices, and that's because London Metals Exchange, I believe, they actually manipulate the price a little bit. But this video is running a little long, so I'm gonna try to throw these last couple points in real quick, and hopefully I'm providing some value for y'all. Um, that they basically have manipulated the price of silver, and the way they do that is that they say the price of silver is notifications on my phone, is $30 an ounce when I was starting to buy it. And they have a lot of orders, but some of those orders are actually paper contracts. They're not real silver that's being filled. So it's like on the Forex where you could call your silver, say, I want to invest in silver, give me 100 ounces. I'm going to put the $30,000 in there, whatever, $3,000, whatever it amounts to, irrelevant. So they say, sure, you want to keep it here in the vault, or do you want us to ship it? And people would say, I just keep it in the vault. I'll call it when I need to cash it out. And they say, fine. Well, they would sell more than was really in the vault, and they suppress the market that way. So I think that there is a chance that there could be a short squeeze, but it's so manipulated now that I don't think it'll happen. It's really just the demand. I mean, like Elon Musk and SpaceX, with all of the new electronic stuff going on, and solar panels and clean energy, and the demand for it's solar voltaic cells. They need a lot of silver. Those that has created a huge demand. So silver is going to go up, but with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, it's not the same. The difference with cryptocurrency versus silver, and I've heard it misrepresented. I heard somebody say that Bitcoin is going to have a short squeeze, and I want to make sure that that's accurately depicted, because a short squeeze is like what happened with GameStop. What's going on with Bitcoin is a liquidity crunch, meaning that there's a big demand for Bitcoin because of its use case as the greatest asset of all time. I can go really deep on this if y'all wanted to, but I don't necessarily want to right now in this video because the time is already running long. But essentially, the demand for this now is nothing like we've ever seen. Because with gold, sure, keep my gold. I'm Great Britain. I'm any European country, even African country. Keep my gold. Keep it safe in Fort Knox. Y'all have the strongest military. I want to be allied with you. We'll use the dollars as a representation of our value, but you keep the gold. So gold didn't have that demand. With crypto, though, anybody can keep their assets safe. There's 21 million Bitcoins, meaning that it's pretty damn scarce. And whether that's scarce or not, the fact is that if that becomes the most secure way of storing your wealth, then 21 million Bitcoins will represent, if it becomes the only way of storing our wealth, then it will represent everything, because all other currencies are deflating in Bitcoin terms and in real terms. If you look at the price of living nowadays, it's not because things are getting more expensive. It's because there's just more dollars. They're just printing more dollars. Now, if they were to do quantitative tightening and pull those dollars back off, sure, the asset prices would come down. Look at property. It's gone way up in price, and it's not because you're getting more out of your property now. The assets are more productive. That they now a house, because of some new thing, it will give you twice as much than it did 5 years ago. But houses prices doubled in 5 years, and it's not because the house does twice as much stuff. It's because the dollar is deflated. But if you look at it in real terms of Bitcoin or gold, you'll notice that the house in terms of Bitcoin or gold are going to be either cheaper to buy a house with Bitcoin, or just slightly more expensive with gold to buy a house, meaning that those things held their value greater than our dollar. So as you get older and you're earning more money, you have some extra money, it's not just covering basic needs. You want to keep it in something that's going to keep up with the cost of living or keep up with inflation. So what I'm saying is, you have to get creative with ways to store your energy. If you have a bad habit like chewing tobacco, smoking cigarettes, and doing drugs, just put that shit to the side and start, instead of focusing so hard on how to utilize the resources you have right now, start focusing on how you can conserve some of the resources you otherwise would utilize and store those resources in an area where they can grow. So if this was a seed and not money, we're going to save it in a seed bank, or we're going to plant it in the dirt. So if you want to compare that seed to saving it, I would say it'd be something like gold. You could save your seed by putting your money or energy into gold. Or if you want to look at something that could grow, I think a better store of value or a better way to grow your money is to invest in some sort of a crypto asset that has real use case. It's going to really change our world. Like I said, I'll go real deep on blockchain if y'all want me to. I haven't heard back any feedback on this first live video I've ever done. I did do a live a while ago, but I've been motivated to want to do this because I see a lot of pain in this world, and I don't like seeing people suffer when I think there's a lot of good that can be done in this world. Um, my name's Alex. That stands for Defender of Mankind. Look it up. And essentially, what I want to do for people is to give them an opportunity to store their time, their precious time they have here on Earth, and hopefully, by doing that and by giving people an actual way, a hope that they're able to help more people. And it's a shame to see what's happened with a lot of things in our world, like how people are able to, and I don't want to get on the negative stuff, but just like how people are able to take advantage of other people, and how people have the means or opportunity, but they get so greedy and caught up in the little things. Like, I don't want to go too far with this, but let's just say, for instance, like one of our customers, a good customer, she gives out a lot of tips. Everybody knows that now. She's very generous. And I saw it create greed in the people instead of creating this love for spreading wealth and contributing and helping others. It turned into, oh, you're going to divvy it out to everybody the same. And oh, man, and I just seeing that, it just bothered me a little bit. It was like anti fucking what it was supposed to be. And it was a little upsetting. I've seen it happen to the people I look up to the most, and I just don't like it. So we all got to share something. And let me be honest with you. If you ain't made of money, don't give your money away. You may have life experiences that could help people. The time when you can give your money away is when you don't owe it to someone else. When you've borrowed money from somebody, you've taken a loan, you have a house payment, you have a car payment, a student loan, or even just a $20 loan to a coworker. You ain't supposed to be giving that money you have to pay off your debts to people. It's just not the right time for it. When you get those debts paid off, that's when you start giving some of that money back to helping people. And if you want to know more about getting wealth, a good starting point is to learn. The Richest Man in Babylon has some good fundamental education in it that can actually help you see the little things you do wrong every day when it comes to money. So that was a book I read. I mean, I've read a lot of books, y'all. Dave Ramsey's got some great books. That Everyday Millionaire. I don't think that was Dave Ramsey. That was one of his people. He has a special word for his people. They're the faces of Dave Ramsey, something like that. Dave Ramsey personalities. So he's a really intelligent guy. Has great stuff he does. I'm just trying to give y'all starting points here because this is my first video, so I want y'all to try to see where I'm coming from on this stuff. And we'll go a lot deeper on stuff as far as like how we're going to store our money and wealth and how we're going to earn more money and wealth. I do also want to say that not everybody's at the same starting point. So I'm trying to give y'all a starting point for me. This is where I'm starting this process at. You may be starting in a totally different place. You could be in a better place. You could be in a lower place. I've probably been in some of your lowest places. And I probably am anywhere near some of the higher places. But I don't care about comparing, the rich people in this world are the ones you want to listen to. And there absolutely is some truth to that. I do agree with that 100%. But there's other things you can learn from people who aren't there yet too. And it's not always about money too. So I think ultimately it is more so about helping each other out. And what the fuck's money gonna do for you? It ain't gonna do shit because you can't eat it. You can't take it to heaven. You can't do anything with money. You can make a fire if you know how. But you can't eat money. So you can listen to the richest people on how to acquire money, but just remember, if you don't know fundamentally why you even want money, then maybe you should try to learn about the fundamentals before you worry about why you want a big house when you don't even know what to do with a big house. I don't want a big house. I'm over that shit. I don't need a fucking Lamborghini right now. I'd love to have one, don't get me wrong. It's a nice flex and everything, but I don't want to have a Lamborghini if all the people around me are still scrounging to get by. I'd rather much I would much rather help the people around me than have a Lamborghini, because in all reality, the people I spend all my time with are people that are around me. So why do I care if I have a Lamborghini if nobody else has one? I would rather help everybody else around me before I have to flex that I have something, while some of my people may not have a good house to live in or food to feed their family or animals or something. I'm not going to be like, oh, but I got a Lamborghini. I don't give a shit about that. It's more about helping people out, and I'll be able to help a lot more people out if I get this shit figured out. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to figure this shit out. Well, hey, this has run pretty long, y'all. I appreciate y'all for if you stuck through that, dude. You're the one. I just had to get shit off my chest. I'll be back probably tomorrow or the next day. I do have to ship. I make a lot of money, y'all, too. I ain't gonna lie. But we ain't gonna talk about that right now. All right. We'll see y'all in the next one. Peace. I have to figure out how to hang this up. This is my first video, y'all. So how do I hang this shit up? Sorry about that. I really don't know how to hang it up. Maybe I flip it tallways. Orientation is like, God, I've never done this. I think I'm off. I'm back. What the fuck? Hold on, I'll figure this out. Was there a chat too? I don't think anybody chatted with me, but hold on. I can't hang up. All right. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. Hopefully y'all enjoy the content. How do I hang up though? Stop